Washington State, also known as the Evergreen State, famous for its apples, rain, beautiful, majestic mountains, and horrible Super Bowl refs. It's also the birthplace of companies like Boeing, Microsoft, and everyone's favorite Starbucks. Home to influential music like Nirvana, Jimi Hendrix, and Sir Mix-a-Lot. Olympia is our capital, where percentage-wise we have the most female elected officials than any other state. And we are one of 22 states with the initiative process, and that's what this documentary is about. I'm getting out, now nothing ever shames me. I'm going out, I don't care if you're angry. There are two ways to pass a law in Washington State. One is through the legislature in Olympia, where the bill goes through the House, the Senate, and then eventually gets signed by the governor. The other is the initiative process, where
the people would have the opportunity to forward issues that they felt maybe the legislature was not addressing properly, or
a proposed law, just like the legislature, and it goes on the ballot. If it's an initiative of the people, it goes to the ballot and the people vote on it.
And they require every initiative to get at least 225,000 signatures in like about a 4-month period of time in order to qualify for the ballot.
Once it has enough signatures, it is placed on the ballot to be voted on by the people. And if the initiative passes, it becomes a law.
Back in 1911, the people, obviously early in our statehood, felt some frustration with the legislature, and particularly they felt that special interest, particularly the railroads, had too much control over the legislature, and the people wanted to have the ability to directly write laws, so they already got rid of laws. So they put together an amendment to change our state constitution.
This initiative process in the state of Washington has been I don't believe it's being used as was intended by the founding fathers.
That what has happened is kind of a flip-flop. It was created as a system to avoid the special interests controlling the legislative process. Well, now most of the initiatives are actually being advocated by a special interest that has been successful in the legislature.
These special interest groups paid thousands and sometimes millions of dollars on gathering signatures and advertising for these initiatives. It's a way to go behind the back of the legislature. Tim Eyman is a large player with the initiative process in Washington State. He's famous for his charismatic personality, firm stance against taxes, and his scandal.
You know, Tim Eyman, took an issue that was one that we had difficulty. We had tried to change for a number of years and we couldn't get it. It's just what I was saying earlier. So the people said, well, we're paying too much for car tabs, and it was very high.
This was Tim Eyman's first successful initiative. It was Initiative 695, or I-695, which reduced car tabs down to around $30. It was very popular amongst the voters.
We managed to get it on the ballot, got the second highest number of signatures in state history, 514,000 signatures.
It passed very easily on election day, and $30 was now the new price for car tabs.
But then we learned another thing about initiatives is that they are very heavily scrutinized by the courts.
The courts ruled, however, that the initiative was unconstitutional and the initiative was no longer valid.
But what was cool about it was within a week, the legislature said, well, the voters voted for it. We're facing re-election this November. Unless we give the voters some of what this initiative did, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And within a week, the legislature adopted the tax reduction portion of 695, and they lowered the taxes down to $30.
The largest part the legislature had a problem with was the reduction in taxes, because if you're reducing taxes, then you're inherently losing funding in some area of government, such as education or healthcare. And in this instance, it really affected public transportation.
It certainly has been a problem. I used to be with county government, and when they stripped the motor vehicle excise tax so much, it really hurt local government, particularly county government, because they were using that so much as part of their revenue base.
Tim Eyman was very open about his dislike of elected officials. He was kind of obnoxious about it, still is, and rude, and accused you of everything under the sun. Then it turns out that Mr. Honest is taking money without reporting it and violating all the rules of public disclosure.
The State Attorney General's Commission staff released a report that stated between the time of February 2000 and January 2002, Iman paid himself over $230,000. What's interesting about this, though, is that Iman was denying ever receiving compensation for these initiatives.
The mistake I made wasn't being compensated. The mistake was not just publicly saying it, you know.
People started looking at him, I think, a little differently. And then he started taking on some more controversial issues and clearly painting himself as in a particular partisan way. And that caused him to become, all these things together caused him to be controversial, and he's not succeeded in all he's done lately.
After Tim Iman's success with I-695, he moved to push other initiatives all dealing with taxation and specifically cutting taxes. All while doing this, many special interest groups and individuals are paying Iman to lobby through the initiative process. Out of Tim Iman's last 7 initiatives, 6 have failed, but his most controversial initiative he supported during this time was I-892.
He said is that there are gambling machines. Some people call them slot machines, video lottery terminals, but all the tribes are allowed to have these machines. And we said, well, if they should have them, all the non-tribal gambling establishments should be able to have them too.
I-892 put slot machines in non-tribal gambling establishments, which entails casinos and potentially restaurants and bowling alleys. There were a large number of special interest groups paying into this initiative from both sides. In fact, over $7 million was spent on the single initiative.
As a group, that we wanted to attract attention to the fact that we are putting this initiative out there. We hired Iman and his initiative machine to go out and get us on the ballot.
I-892 did receive enough signatures to be placed on the ballot. However, it failed on election day.
I went down in flames. I mean, it lost big. I mean, it was the biggest loss we ever had, 62-38.
Was that a good or bad decision? You know, it's hard to say. Do you like Tim Iman or do you don't like Tim Iman? There's two sides of that coin as well.
To me, it was a great idea, but apparently I was one of the 38% that voted yes. 62% thought it was a bad idea.
Would we do it again? I don't know. I don't know if we'd ask for that again. You know, I think, quite frankly, it brought probably too much attention to the cause versus, you know, they're looking more at the initiative runner versus the topic itself. You know.
He writes these initiatives out of passion, or do you think he writes it for the money?
I think he writes them for the money. I believe that there was feelings in the beginning for some of these things, and then he found he could be successful.
Successful or not, Iman has always advocated for reducing taxes.
Our buddy Gary. And Gary Locke, in all of his career, would never advocate for tax relief, ever.
Pay attention to the words he uses, like tax relief. We associate relief with saving people, like hurricane relief. So, in essence, he's very smart in his word choice because he's conveying that he's, in fact, rescuing you from taxes.
The process he's using is sometimes you need to find ways to get media attention on an issue, and, you know, to his credit, he's come up with ways to do it.
And so we down there, we wore these very big orange Gary Ridgway, you know, jumpsuits that said jailbird on them and stuff. And we put duct tape across our mouths, and we had handcuffs, and we had chains around our waists and around our ankles.
Iman has also showed up in costumes like Darth Vader and dressed up as a gorilla, all to get media attention.
You know, colorful. It was very flamboyant, but it got the press to show up. And the press started paying attention to the fact that normally a hearing like this, nobody would go.
Love him or hate him, Tim Iman is still going to dress up, get paid for these initiatives, and repeal taxes. But ultimately, the responsibility lies in the voters' hands.
Is read what you're signing and try to understand the issues before you ever vote on them. Because usually there's a lot more to it than what you're hearing from the people that are putting initiatives in your face.
Some of these initiatives are very complicated, and it's important that the voters understand them before voting on them.
But do the best you can to educate yourself about the issues before you move forward on them and take the position, and certainly before you vote on them.
Please, look at what you're voting on or signing with these initiatives. Be a well-informed voter. Take the initiative.
Cross and the sword. I do the first spear and said I declare war. I'm a battle scar wearing heir apparent, descendant of a long lineage of proletariat and peasant. So check the work ethic and the name. The lessons might change, but the essence of the message is the same. So when they say anything, say why is it? Class is in session till the teacher gets a big slip. I ride the rhythm